January 3rd, 2024. The Crypto.com arena was buzzing with energy as the Los Angeles Lakers faced off against the Miami Heat, but the real drama wasn't happening on the court. In the front row, courtside seats that cost more than most people's monthly salary, sat two of the music industry's biggest names making their first official public appearance as a couple. Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco were about to give the world a masterclass in looking perfect while everything behind the scenes was falling apart. The cameras loved them. Every few minutes, another photographer would capture the perfect couple moment. Selena laying her head on Benny's shoulder, their fingers intertwined, shared laughs at something happening on the court. To the outside world, they looked like two people completely lost in each other, blissfully unaware of the thousands of eyes watching their every move. But if you looked closely enough, if you knew what to watch for, you could see the subtle signs that something was wrong. Selena's phone, tucked discreetly beside her in the courtside seat, lit up approximately every 30 seconds. Each time it did, her smile would flicker for just a moment, barely perceptible unless you were really paying attention. She'd glance down, sometimes shifting slightly to read whatever message had just come through, then quickly return her attention to Benny or the game. "Everything okay?" Benny whispered during a timeout, noting how her hand kept drifting toward her phone. "Yeah, totally fine," Selena replied, flashing that practice smile she perfected over years in the spotlight. "Just some work stuff." But it wasn't work stuff. Not exactly. See, what the cameras didn't capture, what the carefully curated social media posts wouldn't show, was that Selena's phone was exploding with messages from her team, her family, and her friends, all reacting to the fact that this Lakers game represented something much bigger than a casual date night. This was the moment the world was officially meeting Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco as a couple. And not everyone was handling it well. "So, we need to talk about the Twitter situation," read a text from her publicist. The hashtag Selena deserves better is trending. Another from her mom. "Mija, are you sure about this?" The comments on Instagram are. And from her assistant. "Emergency call scheduled for tomorrow morning." 3 different magazines want statements about the relationship timeline. Each message was like a small knife, cutting through the bubble of happiness she'd been trying to maintain. Here she was, finally ready to share her joy with the world. And instead of celebration, she was getting crisis management. The irony wasn't lost on her. For months, she'd been private about her relationship with Benny, partly because she'd learned the hard way what happened when her personal life became public property. Every past relationship had been dissected, analyzed, and ultimately contributed to by millions of strangers with opinions. She'd promised herself that this time would be different. But sitting courtside at a Lakers game with cameras flashing every few seconds, this wasn't exactly keeping things private. "Look at them," she heard someone behind her whisper. "She looks so different with him than she did with Justin." Selena's grip tightened on her phone. Even now, even after all these years, every new relationship was inevitably compared to her past. Every smile was analyzed for authenticity, every gesture measured against previous ones. Benny, meanwhile, was blissfully unaware of the digital storm brewing in Selena's pocket. He was genuinely enjoying the game, occasionally explaining plays to Selena, who was admittedly more interested in the halftime entertainment than the actual basketball. His excitement was infectious, and despite everything else going on, Selena found herself genuinely laughing at his commentary. "Did you see that pass?" he said, gesturing toward the court. "That's exactly why LeBron is still." He paused, noticing that Selena was looking at her phone again. "Babe, seriously, what's going on?" This time, Selena couldn't hide it. Her face had gone pale, reading the latest message from her security team. "Paparazzi have been following your car since you left the house. They know where you're going after the game." But here's where the story takes a turn that changes everything about how we see that night. Don't scroll away, because what Selena did next reveals the real reason their relationship works. Instead of spiraling, instead of letting the stress ruin their night, Selena made a decision that would set the tone for their entire relationship moving forward. She turned her phone face down on her seat and looked directly at Benny. "You want the truth?" she said. My phone is blowing up with people telling me that dating you is either the best or worst decision I've ever made. My team is freaking out about how to manage the narrative. Half the internet thinks you're not good enough for me, and the other half thinks I'm moving too fast after my last relationship. Benny's face went through several emotions: surprise, concern, and then something that looked almost like relief. And he asked simply, and I'm sitting next to my favorite person at a Lakers game, and I'm letting strangers' opinions ruin it, Selena said, which is exactly the kind of thing that destroyed my last relationship. The honesty of that moment, captured by no camera, shared on no social media platform, was what made everything else possible. So what do you want to do? Benny asked. I want to watch you explain basketball to me badly, and I want to eat overpriced arena nachos, and I want to hold your hand without wondering what people are going to say about it, Selena replied. That sounds perfect, Benny said, then grinned. But just so you know, my basketball explanations are actually very good. They're really not, Selena laughed, and for the first time all evening, her smile reached her eyes. They made a pact right there in those courtside seats. No phones for the rest of the game. Whatever was happening in the digital world could wait 2 hours. This moment, their first official public appearance, belonged to them. But the story doesn't end there, because what happened after they put their phones away revealed something even more beautiful about their relationship. Without the distraction of constant notifications, Selena began to notice things she'd been missing. The way Benny's eyes lit up when his favorite player made a good play. How he automatically offered her his jacket when the arena air conditioning got too cold. The fact that he'd ordered her favorite snacks without being asked, even though she'd never told him what her favorite arena food was. How did you know I like soft pretzels with extra mustard? She asked during the third quarter. You mentioned it once when we were watching a movie, Benny replied casually. You said it reminded you of going to baseball games with your dad when you were little. The fact that he'd remembered such a small detail, that he'd cared enough to remember it, hit Selena harder than any of the negative comments on her phone ever could. Meanwhile, the cameras continued to capture their interactions, but now those moments were genuine. The laugh when Benny spilled nacho cheese on his jersey. The way Selena covered her face when the kiss cam landed on them. They declined, but both were grinning. The animated conversation they had during timeouts, clearly debating something basketball-related. This is what love looks like, one fan tweeted after seeing the photos the next day. Not the stage stuff, but the real moments when they forget cameras exist. But here's what makes this story even more incredible, and why you need to subscribe if you haven't already, because what happened in the parking lot after the game would become the foundation of how they'd handle public attention for the rest of their relationship. As they walked to their car, surrounded by security and with paparazzi cameras flashing, Selena's phone started buzzing again. This time, instead of reaching for it immediately, she looked at Benny. Ready to face the music? She asked. Only if you are, he replied, taking her hand. They turned their phones back on together, scrolling through the messages and social media posts side by side. Some were positive, some were negative, most were just noise. But instead of letting it overwhelm them individually, they processed it together. Look at this one, Benny said, showing her a tweet. Someone said I looked like I was trying too hard to impress you. Were you? Selena asked, amused. Absolutely, Benny admitted. Did it work? Maybe a little, Selena grinned. They established rules that night that would serve them well through engagement announcements, wedding planning, and every other public milestone. They'd face the attention together. They wouldn't make major decisions about their relationship based on public opinion. And most importantly, they protect their private moments by occasionally choosing to ignore the rest of the world. I learned something tonight, Selena said as they drove home. I can't control what people say about us, but I can control how much I let it affect us. Plus, Benny added, the Lakers won, so clearly we're good luck. The photos from that night became iconic, not because they were perfectly posed, but because they captured something real. Two people choosing each other despite the noise, despite the opinions, despite the complications that come with loving someone in the public eye. But perhaps the most telling detail from that evening came weeks later, when Selena posted a carousel of photos from the game. The caption was simple, my best friend, a typo that she left uncorrected because it made Benny laugh when he first read it. In one of the photos, you can just barely see the edge of Selena's phone, face down on her seat. That small detail told the real story of the night, the choice to be present, to prioritize their connection over the digital chaos. That Lakers game was when I knew, Selena said in a later interview. Not just that I loved Benny, but that I loved who I was when I was with him. He makes me brave enough to choose happiness over fear. The relationship advice that came out of that night was simple but profound. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is put your phone down and pay attention to the person sitting next to you. Their first public appearance could have been a disaster. The internet was ready with opinions, the media was analyzing every gesture, and the pressure to be perfect was immense. Instead, it became the template for their entire relationship. Real moments, honest communication, and the courage to choose each other over everyone else's expectations. We're not performing our relationship for anyone, Benny said in a recent podcast interview. We're just living it. And sometimes that happens to include courtside seats and photographers. The Lakers beat the Heat that night, 104-99. But the real victory happened in those moments when two people decided that their connection was more important than their notifications, and that sometimes the best response to public pressure is private joy. Looking back on that evening now, with the perspective of their engagement and everything that followed, that Lakers game represents something even more significant than their first public appearance. It was the night they learned how to be a couple in the spotlight without losing themselves in the process. The security footage from that night, which the arena keeps for VIP guests, shows something the photographs couldn't capture. The exact moment Selena put her phone face down. You can see her shoulders physically relax and Benny's posture shift as he realizes she's fully present with him. It's a masterclass in body language, showing how much tension they'd both been carrying without realizing it. I watched that footage months later when we were doing some promotional work with the Lakers, Selena revealed in a recent interview. I was shocked at how anxious I looked before I made that decision and how different both of us looked after. It's like we became different people in real time. The ripple effects of that choice continued well beyond that evening. Friends close to the couple noticed a shift in how Selena handled public scrutiny after the Lakers game. She became more selective about when and how she engaged with public opinion, often using the Lakers test, asking herself if whatever was bothering her was important enough to interrupt a moment with Benny. That night taught us that we could control our own narrative just by controlling our own experience, Benny explained. We couldn't stop people from having opinions, but we could stop those opinions from having us. The Lakers organization later reached out to thank them for bringing positive attention to the team, but what they didn't know was that Selena and Benny had already decided to become season ticket holders. Not for the publicity, but because they discovered they genuinely enjoyed having a space where they could just be a normal couple, albeit one sitting in very expensive seats. Some of our best conversations happen at Lakers games, Selena said. There's something about being in a crowd of people who are all focused on the same thing that makes you feel both anonymous and connected at the same time. The couple has since attended dozens of games together, and while they're no longer novelty enough to get constant camera attention, they still follow their original rule: phones down during game time. It's become such a signature part of their relationship that friends joke about pulling a Lakers game when they want to encourage someone to disconnect and be present. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever had to choose between other people's opinions and your own happiness, hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments about a time when you chose to ignore the noise and follow your heart. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is put your phone down and hold someone's hand.